And I'm just waiting for a quorum to be established before we get started. So we'll wait a couple more minutes. Before we get started, why don't I read this announcement, and then we can hopefully have quorum established by the time I'm finished. So I'll read slowly. Thank you, Councilmember Mahan, for being here. I know Councilmember Esparza is out sick today, so we need one other person to establish quorum, which means we can do some work once a quorum established. Otherwise, we can just listen to reports, and that's about it, I believe. So, but let me get started with this statement first, and this is our code of conduct statement. I want to remind the committee and members of the public to follow the code of conduct at this meeting. This includes commenting on the specific item only and addressing the full body. Public speakers will not engage in a conversation with the council members, board members, commissioners, or staff. All members of the committee, staff, and the public are expected to refrain from abusive language. Repeated failure to comply with the code of conduct which will disturb, disrupt, or impede the orderly conduct of this meeting may result in removal from this meeting. This meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee will now come to order. Could the clerk take the roll, or do we have quorum yet? We don't have quorum.
Of quorum.
We do or we don't?
Yes, I believe we do. Perales just joined.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
there's quorum.
wonderful. Then could you take the roll, please?
Carrasco. Perales.
Here.
Mahan.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. We have, the first thing is to review the work plan. There are two items on the work plan that have both been dropped. The first is a work to future annual report that was dropped per the rules committee. And really that's because we had a report from them not that long ago, and nothing has occurred to update us in what work to future is up to. So that has been dropped per rules. Also, the next item, which is downtown and regional wayfinding, that has been dropped for this fiscal year, but we will be hearing it at this committee in October of this year, 2022. So I will turn to public comments. Please keep your public comments to those specific work plan items. And with that, Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Happy meeting to everyone. Happy end of May to everyone, May 2022. I was interested and curious if the wayfinding efforts is a part of, say, the kiosks that are going to go up downtown that can give information to people. And if that is what this item is about, I think those kiosks can be a wonderful idea to work as a way to describe what exactly is, the open public policies and practices that San Jose will be following. So when you read the information, you also will be aware that there's an open, accountable process that is a part of the whole technology IoT system that's being created for the downtown area. And for people to be aware of that, I think just would make them happy. I think they would just feel relief and interest. And it would just be part of an overall, what's the word, holistic process of building a future of innovation and community that I think is really important and necessary and meaningful. And that's what would get people to more come to San Diego. They'd want to be around it, and you'd have interesting people who want to be around that process. So good luck how to introduce open public policies and accountability practices to the wayfinding kiosks for the future of the downtown area. Thank you.
Seeing no other public comment, I'll go to the committee and request a motion to accept the work plan, the modifications to the work plan.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then clerk, will you take the roll, please?
Carrasco,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the reports to the committee, we have an economic development activities report from Elizabeth. We haven't seen you for a couple of months, so I understand there's a lot going on. So take it away, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Yes, there is a lot. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great, thank you. Elizabeth Handler, I'm the Public Information Manager, Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs. And it has been a busy, roughly quarter. The months are a little fluid in our department, with both events and activities going on in person for a change now, and also the other kinds of communications around financial help for small businesses. So one of the most important announcements we've made recently is the city's grant program for small businesses looking to for help with past due rent. And it's all part of an effort to curtail any kind of commercial eviction wave, which would damage not only the small businesses, but also the property owners in town, many of whom are moms and pops themselves. And those properties are the family's wealth. So this grant program is in operation now. They're taking applications through the end of May. And so far we have probably about 150 applications or pre-application questionnaires finished, and I think about 60 actual applications in-house. And the final allocation of the funds will be by lottery, which is an interesting approach, which means that the folks who get in at the last minute, maybe had trouble applying, are not penalized. So that's going on, and it's an exciting program. We also now have our projects report of the development activities, the major activities around town, with some important commercial developments happening, including the West Bank and Coleman High Line, and then also the master development proposal for the flea market. So we're working on those, but the full report includes an interactive map and details on the residential developments, as well as the hotel and other kinds of development. So that's a must read. We had an interesting partnership with Facebook just recently, which was open to both small businesses who need help with becoming more digital in their marketing, and also for young adults who are interested in internships. And with working with Work to Future, this matches up the young adults who get training, and then they go and help the small businesses become more adept at digital marketing and communications. So that's going on right now. Oh, and it's a trained internship as well. They get $500 for doing it. Well, the businesses get a $500 credit, and the interns are paid at a very good weekly salary. We also wanted to share what we've been doing in our business walks. We've been doing these since the beginning of May last year, and it is a group of anywhere from 3 to 8 people from our business development unit going out to commercial districts and neighborhoods with small businesses all over the city. And I know I can see Councilmember Mann trying very hard to read the list. I apologize. It's very small, but the blog post, if you click on the blog post, you'll be able to access the full list. And we've covered all the districts so far, some more than others simply because of the difference in impact of COVID on various neighborhoods. But it is our goal to reach out to all the neighborhoods. We are not only just spreading the word of what projects and what support is available, but we're also collecting information on what the businesses are most concerned about. And one of the issues is definitely the impact of homelessness on commercial neighborhoods. And so we're including some more support for that in our ongoing communications to small businesses. We now have a partnership working with Start Small, Think Big to be able to support small businesses with their relationships with their landlords and helping them become a little bit more savvy in terms of real estate and being able to be both less vulnerable to eviction, but also more able to negotiate and manage the implications of where they have to do business. So that we're starting with a series of webinars on it, as well as a hotline that's available to small business owners for free hands-on advice. Very long post about a meeting that we had with flea market vendors in February at the flea market, where we were able to share with the vendors the progress that we've made working with the Berryessa Flea Market Vendors Association in moving towards what the council directed us to do, which is to help create an advisory group that will be responsible for making decisions about the disbursement of the funds that were developed from the owners of the flea market and the city to help them transition through the development phase that the market is going through over the next 3 to 10 years. It's a long horizon, but the vendors are very concerned, and you heard their report last month about that, and I think you got the flavor. But then we were able to have this meeting, which was very successful as far as we were concerned. We got very valuable feedback from the vendors. This is a grant program that came and went, but it was the first city grant program that we did, or the county grant program for microloans to small businesses. And that came and went, and the loans were dispersed. But again, this was for small grants, about $2,500. And then finally, we have a guest blog post from Rick Jensen, the communications director at the San Jose Downtown Association, detailing some of the kind of activation and experiential aspects of the recovery as downtown is experiencing it, including the San Pedro Square Market activation, which I think everybody agrees is enormous, as well as Post Street, and the advances in new businesses opening up in San Jose, along with Mama Kin going into the Cafe Stretch location. And I can share that opening will be June 3rd coming up. So watch your calendars for that. That should be exciting to have that open and active again on South First Street. And with that, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Turning to members of the public first, Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for this item. During March and April, I felt there was a really interesting growth and a way of talking about programs in San Jose at committee meetings. And this returns to those kind of good subject matter. This is positive and it's constructive, I think. It's so thanks a lot. Good items. The items of, say, that I was interested in, the San Jose program where small business owners can call a toll-free hotline if they have any questions and want some sort of one-on-one assistance. about their small business needs. That's interesting stuff. That's new and helpful. And you have some sort of loan programs for small businesses that are going on, a projects report, and rent debt. And I think there's also a way that small business owners to talk about using the toll-free number to say talk about their tenants' issues. Really helpful. Thank you. About the flea market issues, good luck with that. Good luck with how I think that flea market vendors, I think, can actually have a right to consider, a bit more room for the future of flea market vending space. And from that, possibly how to develop what exactly the place will look like and how it will be designed in the future. I think vendors can have a really important voice and good voice in the future design of what exactly this area will look like. So good luck in those sort of efforts and dialogue, and thanks a lot for this item.
Thank you. Turning to the committee, does anyone have any comments or wish to make a motion to accept the report? Council Member Mahan.
Thanks, Chair. I'll make a motion in just a moment. Elizabeth, thank you for the report. I was just curious if you could give us a little more context on the conversations with the vendors. Specifically, you said you got some great feedback from the vendors at the flea market. I was just curious if you could share maybe a little one more degree of detail around kind of what you're hearing and what their priorities are at the moment.
Sure, Council Member, I'm very happy to. I think it was abundantly clear to us at that meeting, although we knew this from working with the vendor association, that the concern among the vendors regarding their future is acute. And from our perspective, maybe it's unwarrantedly acute because we understand that the operators and the owners of the property can't evict anybody for a year after they have filed their development application. And that's probably a year plus away in and of itself. So we know it's not happening tomorrow. The vendors don't have that luxury. They're just terrified. And so part of what we're trying to do is to kind of help them take a deep breath and find ways in which they can strengthen their business operations and the way that they're able to earn a living right now as we go through this development process, which is going to be a long time. And Nancy can speak more to that. I think the other issue that has come up clearly to us is that they feel that they have no control over their lives as tenants of the flea market right now. And they desperately want it. They want to be able to guide their own destinies, operate their own flea market. And as anybody knows who's worked in this area, that's a huge, huge step. But we're working very hard towards helping them realize what the challenges are as well as what the opportunities are there. So I don't know if Nancy, you want to speak more to that because she's been deeply involved.
A lot of good things. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. A lot of good things going on. Additional services, technical services, exploration of loan products that may well be the first for San Jose that we could think about yet, including to other small businesses beyond that. So we're taking the opportunity to look at this as a way to infuse new and helpful support for small business, and then thinking, as mentioned, and Mr. Beekman mentioned, about what is possible on site for the vendors, and then is there an opportunity off site? And we are hiring consultants as specified in the action by council last year.
Great, thanks for the additional context. Appreciate getting a slightly fuller update there. I know my colleague has his hand up. I'll go ahead and move the report, assuming he's going to be okay with that, and then that'll be it for me, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick note. Thank you, Elizabeth, who mentioned it, but we are excited, and so I'm inviting everybody from this committee and anybody else who can make it. 5 p.m. next Friday, June 3rd, is the grand opening or ribbon cutting for Mama Kin, as Elizabeth said, taking over for formerly Cafe Stritch, which was a big bummer to lose that venue. So it'd be great to continue the support and see that this new business thrives with live music continuing there in that spot. So just giving everybody that heads up. That's it. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. Councilmember Carrasco.
Hi, thank you. And I want to thank you for the report. I just wanted to follow up on a couple of questions regarding the flea market vendors, if you will. Just a couple of concerns that were raised and were brought to my attention by some of the advocates. Of course, I know that Nancy has already heard them, and I know we've talked about it in the past. But if you could just give me an update on some of the concerns that the vendors have brought up regarding, the parking fees and the entrance fees, and some of the concerns that I know that you've heard about as well, Nancy. I know that this poses a hardship for the vendors as they're facing some uncertainty of their future.
Yes, Councilmember, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit more about that. The challenge, yes, the vendors are concerned about having harder economic impacts than they currently are experiencing. The parking and or $300 stall fee that was added, the city is extremely limited to almost no quote unquote interference between a business owner and their tenant. Very different than a landlord who has housing or particularly affordable housing there. So the notion of loans, which people are concerned about taking, they welcome the technical assistance and potentially the loans, but very much wanting to continue to make their livelihood and look to ways to expand. One of the other issues, which would be great for your offices, if you'd be so kind, is for some reason, some folks in all of the action that took place last year think that the market has closed or is closing. So part of what we're trying to do is continue the information that the market is indeed open and to come enjoy the market and bring your family, have fun and entertainment. So that is an effort that we're participating with the vendors as well.
Nancy, I'm sorry. I didn't quite follow, and I maybe I wasn't very clear. So I'm unclear as to the response. So what I was asking was about the additional fees that have been imposed, and whether there is any if there's been any resolution, or if we know that these fees are going to continue to burden the tenants.
Sure, Councilmember, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. The city, unfortunately, has no ability to step in between the owner of the flea market and the vendors. And there were, and I could certainly provide to you and or other committee members, the owners pointed out that it had been quite a number of years before they raised parking fees at all. And they gave fees in line with showing that they were still less than other markets in the area, be it the Berkeley flea market or the Capitol flea market, etc. But after having extensive conversations with our city attorney's office, we do not as a city have an avenue to make the property owner do something different.
Right, I understand that. And I understand the studies, and I understand the comparisons and everything. I do, however, think that when we have these reports, I think we have to be, upfront and say, and recognize that not everything is, going uh, perfectly well. It's not a smooth transition. They are struggling. This is what I'm hearing directly from the vendors. I want to be very clear and I want to be very transparent. There is a gentleman that works for me now, one of my staffers, Roberto, who's co-presented with you, and he is part of the Flea Market Vendors Association. And I want to be very clear, and I want to make sure that I go on record. He and I do not have conversations about what's happening at the flea market because he wants to preserve his job, and so he's built a firewall around these conversations. So the individuals that I'm having a conversation with are outside of Roberto. And I've told him that off hours, he can come to me, and he still has not come to me, which I think is actually a tragedy in and of itself, because I think that he's one of the best advocates, and I think that he should feel free to come to me on his off hours and advocate for his association. But anyway, I have other community folks that are coming to me and talking to me about this. And so what I'm hearing is that there is some impact on the vendors because of these fees. And so regardless of the comparison, given the high cost of living and everything else that we know about San Jose, I do think that that needs to be baked into the reports when we talk about the progress and the support that we're giving our vendors, that this is an impact on their livelihood. I also think that, that we should have a friendly conversation. There's no way of twisting the arms of the Baum family. But I think that a friendly conversation about how could we better support the vendors who for over 60 years, help the Baum family build a dynasty that they get to enjoy for generations to come in their own personal wealth. And now they will be displaced no matter which way we look at it, no matter which way we cut it, no matter which way we want to portray it, no matter which way we want to paint it. They will get displaced, and the Baum family will do very well for themselves after all of this is said and done. And so I think that they could, they could potentially look to see how they could ease the burden and allow them to figure out how to secure a more, I don't even want to say profitable future for the vendors, but at least a future that would allow them to just secure their livelihood. Additionally, I want to say that one of the things that was very disturbing to me was that some of their costs for doing business has gone up because they don't have a lease, they have a license. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, but there are some marked differences from my understanding, at least what's been told to me. And yet, it's been explained that it's because of the cost of doing business has gone up also for the Baum family. Maintenance has gone up, yet some of these vendors still don't have electricity for them to conduct business in the middle of the afternoon as it gets darker. And in addition, some folks have been asked to vacate or to terminate their business practice because suddenly certain rules have been changed on them after they conducted business there for over 30 years, conducting business in the same manner, and suddenly the rules are changed up on them. And so they're okay following the rules from what I've been told. They say, we'll follow the rules. Just tell us what the rules are and give us a fair warning and we'll follow those rules. But what I'm hearing is, suddenly they're playing hardball from one day to the next. And so if you could offer any suggestions on how we can help mediate that, or how we can, really support vendors who are having a hard time understanding where this is coming from.
Councilmember, thank you very much for the passion and the direction. I want to just ask a quick question. I think you were not able to be at committee when the vendor report was given. I think that may be so. And what I'd like to
No,
do.
I was there. I was
Oh,
there.
you were there. I was going to say.
By the way, Nancy, this was just reported to me maybe 3 or 4 days ago.
I see. So, and I'm happy offline to also come. There was, you may recall, apologize for not recalling in more detail that you were there, but there was quite a bit of extensive conversation that Roberto, on behalf of the vendors, shared that are troubling and difficult. And by no means are we trying to say that all is good. All is really hard. There are some highlights in that the Vendors Association is strengthening as an organization. We are investing in Roberto and other leaders. Roberto, and I totally respect and know, council member, that there's no stepping over the bright line between this issue and your office. That said, Roberto's is a amazing young leader, and investing in him is just smart, not only for the Vendors Association, but for the area. We have spoken with Eric directly, and I believe that the best we have been able to accomplish to date is to have no further imposition of fees that have been contemplated. And we have also shared the concerns about maintenance very directly with Eric to go back to the family. So I want to just let you know, we are very directly speaking to the family, that we're aware, so that the owners aren't for some reason thinking that we don't see the concerns.
Great. I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. And we can, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And we can have a conversation offline, but I'm glad to hear that's taking place.
Thank you.
Anything else, Councilmember Carrasco?
No, thank you so much. And I really appreciate the rest of the report as well. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you. It sounds like there's a lot of good activity and some things we need to watch at the flea market, definitely. We will get another annual report on the flea market based on our work plan for 22-23. I'm not sure exactly when that is, but it's probably less than a year since we just had the last one last month. We'll probably have another one. We'll check that out, and you'll get a copy of the work plan when it's available. With that, I see no other hands raised. Clerk, if we could take the vote.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Peralez,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Foley.
Aye. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for the report, Elizabeth. Next is a report on the Housing Crisis Work Plan Prioritized Item Status Report. I understand Jared Ferguson is going to kick us off. There you are.
Hi, good afternoon. Let me share my screen here with the slides. Jared Ferguson, Housing Catalyst with the Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs. I'm joined with Rachel Veen, Deputy Director of the Housing Department, and Michael Brio, Deputy Director in Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. We're here today to provide you with an update on our progress implementing the Housing Crisis Work Plan. First adopted in 2018, the Housing Crisis Work Plan is intended to help encourage the goal of 25,000 housing units by 2023 that have received planning approval, are under construction, or are complete. This includes 15,000 market rate units and 10,000 affordable units. This first chart shows the progress towards that goal through March of 2022. This chart with 2 additional charts is included as attachment B to the staff report. As we've noted in previous reports, the city has met the goal for market rate housing by exceeding 15,000 market rate units, although we know there is more to be done to ensure units continue to move along through the process to completion. The city has made progress on affordable, particularly in the last 2 years, and has achieved roughly 1/3 of its goal, but it will not achieve the full goal by 2023. This next chart shows the number of units issued building permits. This data is important as it represents the start of new construction and is the best indicator of current economic conditions. 2021 exceeded 2020, but was still far behind 2018 and 2019. 2022 so far has followed a similar trend as 2021. There was one significant market rate multifamily project that started construction in 2021 and one in the first quarter of 2022. Otherwise, production has been buoyed by ADUs with 464 permitted in 2021 and already 177 through March of this year. Rents remain high in San Jose and rent growth has been positive year over year, increasing 14% from last year, but still about 1% behind March 2020 at the start of the pandemic. The rent growth is a positive for potential market rate development, but construction costs have continued to escalate significantly throughout the pandemic. These underlying factors, coupled with continued uncertainty, has made new market rate construction challenging. More recently, rising interest rates may also contribute to new challenges for market rate construction. I'll now hand it over to Rachel to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Jared. Again, my name is Rachel Veen, Deputy Director of the Housing Department. As Jared just mentioned, the same is true with affordable housing. The number of permits, building permits, is a strong indicator of upcoming affordable housing to our community. We currently have 5 affordable housing developments under construction. This includes Alum Rock Family, Aria, Page Street, Blossom Hill Senior Apartments, and the Gallup Mesa development. The critical factor for affordable housing developments to achieve in order to pull their building permits is to close their financing. Over the past 2 years, our developments have been challenged in securing bond allocations from the California Debt Allocation Committee, or affectionately known as CDLAC. Therefore, the number of building permits is limited to those developments who have received allocations. I want to share with all of you, we were successful in securing 4 allocations in the most recent round, but the difficult reality is that costs are increasing and financing is tightening due to increased interest rates. And now we actually have a real concern that 2 of those 4 may not be in a position to close their financing in the amount of time that's required by CDLAC. This CDLAC is actually calling a special meeting this week on Wednesday to try and figure out how they're going to deal with this issue. We have these troubled developments in San Jose, but there are others across the state. And so the development community has asked them to look into really 2 things. One is an extension for more time that will allow developers to try and put all these pieces together that have been wobbling the last few weeks. So that's one strategy. The second strategy is actually to dampen the penalty for not closing on time. So right now what happens is if a developer has to basically give back a SIDLAC allocation because they're not able to close in the required time frame, they receive a strong penalty, which is negative points for 2 years. So what that means is that affordable housing development essentially will not be able to receive any sort of SIDLAC allocation for a period of 2 years. So there's also a request for SIDLAC to basically waive those penalties so that developers don't have to be in such a bad position for not closing on time right now. So again, I just wanted to raise this. We were really hopeful that our number for 2022 would be able to include 4 more developments that could pull their building permits, but at this point, we are concerned that may be limited to just 2. And we still have to figure out how we're going to pull the other 2 together. So, all right, next slide. Now this slide focuses on some policy accomplishments that we have done. The last 2 were just really focused on production. So I am happy to report that we were able to bring forward changes to the commercial linkage fee program. And I'm very happy to let you all know we received our first commercial linkage fee payment. It came in, and what was really interesting for, if you remember all the details of this conversation, what we did is we actually, City Council approved like an incentive to pay the commercial linkage fee at building permit, which as staff reviewed the process, is really the ideal time to receive the payment. And that is exactly what happened with our first payment. It was paid because it was paid at building permit, and they were really incentivized to receive the 80% fee that came along with paying at that point in time. So we're very happy to report that. Additionally, we were able to move forward eliminating commercial space requirements for affordable housing development. This has been kind of an ongoing conversation for a long period of time, and we feel like this was a strong accomplishment and something included in our work plan for quite some time. And also, we were able to reimagine underutilized business corridors for allowing for housing. So these are all things that we are very happy have been able to move forward, and we look forward to the results in the future coming from these changes. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Michael.
Thank you, Rachel. Michael Brio, Deputy Director of Citywide Planning. So hang on a second. There we go. The big focus of the planning department, the Citywide team, as well as the housing's policy team, is to complete the housing element. That's our number 1 assignment as part of the housing crisis, and actually otherwise. And so we're moving forward with that. The draft element is anticipated to be completed and brought to council for consideration in April of next year. A big part of that work, which is new, it originally came from the Obama administration. Trump got rid of it, but California continued to maintain this requirement, and that is to do an assessment of fair housing to address past racial discrimination and segregation, and to create a pathway for a more equitable and inclusive city of San Jose. So that's a big part of our work that we'll be doing as we identify sites for affordable housing and a work program to further implement our goals in our housing element. As part of this work, we're doing public participation across all economic segments, and particularly focusing on hard to reach groups as well. And just a note, because of which I'll get to more in a minute, but because the priority of the housing element, it's meaning we've had to reallocate staff within both on the housing department side and the planning department side to focus on the housing element and and not to focus on the work that they were doing prior. So that is impacting, housing element is impacting some of the other assignments that both our departments have. Next slide. So related to this, I just want to note that the citywide planning team lost over 40% of its staff from the fall through the winter of 2022. So it's a significant loss. We are actively recruiting and have filled 4 vacancies. We're still recruiting for 3 senior planners and 2 planners. So the vacancies as well as turnover. So mind you, it's not just the fact that you don't have bodies, but you have experienced staff that left. And as we fill them, we often are getting people that are starting out their career or at least new to the city. So it takes time to train them and bring them on board. That is affecting some of our project timelines. Some of the housing crisis work programs in the memo are being delayed or are temporarily on hold due to the lack of staff that we currently have, in combination with us needing to reallocate resources to focus on the housing element. Next slide. So I just want to highlight some of the things in our work program. One of them is YIGB, allowing affordable housing on assembly use sites. This includes all assembly uses, most commonly thought of as places of worship. That work actually is going forward. That's one of the items where we are still doubling down and working on. Where we are with that currently is developing the project description for CEQA and the CEQA process. We anticipate we would bring a policy back to council for its consideration early next year. And the primary driver of this work really actually is the CEQA. So that's what's taking the amount of time that's needed to complete this work. The other item that we got council direction to do and is in our work program, and we were actually working on this, was to explore a policy that would allow housing and other non-PQP uses on public school lands. We affectionately call this YOSL. So YOSL is on hold due to, initially it was on hold because of concern by the school districts on this and their need to get students back into school in the COVID pandemic. But more recently, it's because of staffing issues. We've had to put this item on hold. We anticipate starting this one up again once YIGB is completed and council has made a decision on what to do with YIGB, and then we'll move next on to YOSL. The other work plan highlight or item I want to just mention really quickly is council direction to apply the mobile home park land use designation on the remaining, I think it's 56 mobile home parks in San Jose. And so that's work. We put out a memo in 2018 that outlines the resources that we would need. It's included in this memo as well. That staff, both housing department and planning, would need to complete that work. This is an item that potentially we could get to in a year and a half or so, as the aligning the general plan with the zoning with the general plan team winds down that work. They could take up this work. We would still need additional resources for CEQA. Housing would need resources as well. But the key item is we need resources to do this work, and so that's up to the council's decision to give us those resources. Next slide. And I think this goes back to you, Jared.
Thanks, Michael. So since its creation, the Housing Crisis Work Plan has contained an evolving list of strategies to increase housing production, or in some cases to preserve existing affordable units, with an overall goal of delivering 25,000 new units by 2023 with 15,000 market rate and 10,000 affordable. The city is currently in the final year of that timeline. Based on the production we are reporting, the city has met its goal of 15,000 market rate units that have received planning approval or under construction or have been completed. However, the city is short of its goal of 10,000 affordable units. And although the goal for market rate was met, there is still more the city must do to continue to encourage production of market rate housing, and even more work to be done towards the production of affordable housing. Implementation of the work plan is managed through the Housing Catalyst team. The team meets on a bi-monthly basis and is composed of staff from the Business and Economic Development team and the Office of Economic Development and Cultural Affairs, the Citywide Planning Division and the Department of Planning, Building and Code Enforcement, the Policy and Planning and Residential Development Divisions in the Housing Department, and the Strategic Planning Team in the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services. The creation of this interdepartmental housing catalyst team has led to greater collaboration and served as a valuable place to pool knowledge and resources around individual issues. Staff intends to bring forward a report directly to the City Council later this fall that will propose to close out the housing crisis work plan, but have its work items and process evolve into the housing catalyst team work plan moving forward into 2023. In this form, the work plan would be even more closely aligned with the city's new housing element and its proposed strategies along with its annual reporting. The city's new 6-cycle regional housing needs allocation, or RHNA, would serve as the unit goal. This new form would allow the city to continue with the most useful elements of the housing crisis work plan, one of which has been our interdepartmental housing catalyst team, focused on the policies and programs in the work plan. Then additionally, the work plan itself would continue as a unified location for staff, the City Council, and the public to understand and track what work is being pursued related to housing in San Jose. And with that, that concludes our presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you for the report. Very informative. Moving to members of the public. Jill Borders.
Hi, thank you. This is Jill Borders. I just wanted to thank those that just gave this report, and including the mobile home efforts that will be taking place over the next 18 months. Actually, excuse me, not until 18 months is what I gathered from another meeting that I was in. So I hope somebody will, on the council, excuse me, on this committee will ask these questions, because we have been waiting for this unanimous council vote to apply a mobile home land use designation through the 56 mobile home parks. We've been waiting for this, as you know, since 2020. And we know that there are staffing shortages. We know there are issues. But this goes back, and if you look at the history of mobile home parks, really, when I say history, I mean from like the 1970s. And the efforts in the 90s to change them into other things, and then having to reapply protections, and then them being taken off again for the 2040 plan, and now having to have protections again. I just hope that you know that we all know the history, and we are paying attention, and we are grateful that these efforts will be made, but we really want to make sure that this committee and the entire council and the entire housing department and the planning department know that it matters greatly to us that this happens. And so I do hope we can find the resources for this and the people involved to make this happen, because securing these units and making sure that we're preventing displacement is one of the really only actually one of the most important things that we can do during this crisis. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. Not to mention that mobile homes are amongst the most affordable housing available right now. Next caller is Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the words of Jill Borders. It was nice she could offer something specific that yourselves can work on in housing. That was interesting words. Thank you. For myself, I guess I can just go over a list of the things that I try to bring up that I think are important to work on. Good luck on dealing with this affordable housing financing issue that's going on. I don't know, this sounds like a long-term problem that's coming up right now, and good luck how you can really address it and find relief that can be for the long term, and good ideas for a long-term planning. We shouldn't lose affordable housing, and we don't have to do it cheaply. We can do it a process well to include. The subsidy process has made decision-making a little different for ourselves at this time. A reminder in the importance of good practices we already have, and that the future of subsidy for, say, I can't think of what they're called, the very specific housing, the enclosed housing. I can't remember its name right now, but for that, very specialized form of housing that's being developed all around the city at this time, that doesn't have to be fully subsidized, and its vetting process doesn't have to be made more efficient to expedite it, bringing in the housing better or easier, faster. Those are very high-end developers, and they're not going to be really searching for really low-income housing for the future of that housing. We need to work on that kind of stuff and make sure that extremely low, very low, and mixed income is always important.
Thank you. Turning to the committee, Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. I am curious because as we just saw in the presentation, heard on this mobile home work, I also was not aware that we're looking at another 18 months potentially before we can, tell me if I heard it correctly, before we would start the work. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think the message back in 2018, frankly, was we couldn't start the work at all until we get resources from council. And there was a memo we put out that estimated it was around $350,000 that we would need. And we still need resources from the council to do this work. I think where we're at, the thinking at the moment is that as the team completes the rezonings per requirements of state law, that staff could transition to start doing general plan amendments on mobile home parks when, that'd probably be about a year and a half from now when they could start to transition over. We will still need money from council to do that work because there's CEQA. In 2018, the estimate was around $110,000. I'm sure, if you add in inflation, it's higher than that. And there's also some other related costs. So we would need money for council, even if we were to start them with work 18 months from now.
Okay, that is helpful. Is there a reason why this was not on the list of the priority items, the backlog, priority items or initiatives where we would then decide? Is that because essentially is this saying, hey, this has been prioritized, it's already work that's on, or that should be going on, but it's just not funded? Is that why?
I don't know if I can answer that question.
I remember a bit of the background. I can take this if you, so in 2020, when the mobile home park general plan designation was created and then applied to the two mobile home parks most at risk, it was also removed from the council priority list at that time. And then we placed this item on the housing crisis work plan to track the implementation. But since the major policy work related to the mobile home parks was completed, that's why it was taken off the council priority list at the time. That was before the roadmap was created.
Okay, I guess I am concerned because, obviously we spent a good amount of time discussing the budget, and then we spent an afternoon discussing the backlog items, and and we're potentially adding even more work to the plate, and yet in that discussion, right, wasn't surfaced, hey, by the way, this particular set of work that the council has already supported being done is still left unfunded. So in essence, I think it should have been denoted as backlogged work or shelved work, right? That is sitting there waiting until we get some funding for it. So it may not be, needing to be prioritized to get done. It's just prioritized to get funding. But nonetheless, I think that unfortunately we're still a day and a half away before budget documents are due. So I can, ask my team to craft one. But I think that it would have been better somehow with an item like this to enter that discussion, and to be aware that, hey, this work that I felt was going to be prioritized and find its way to be concluded, that it's basically sitting on a shelf until the council makes a separate decision to fund the work. And so I'm glad we're having that discussion today, but I'm I wouldn't have been so happy, say, for instance, if this meeting was next week and, now we're sort of beyond where a budget document is due. So I think that we got to marry up some of the work that is yet to be done, or work like this that maybe is yet to be funded. We should marry that up into the conversations that we have around the budget, so then that way we can actually understand, should we be trying to add more work to the list, or asking for particular one-off projects to be funded, or should we be asking for things that have already been passed, voted on, prioritized, and now they're just waiting on some funding. So because I do think this is extremely important work, and I'm glad we did it. I'm glad we identified the two most vulnerable mobile home parks, but there are now a couple other mobile home parks, one in particular that is vulnerable, and I'd like to, sort of see that we continue this work to get through the remaining ones. So I got some work to do before Wednesday, it looks like. Okay, thanks.
And Councilmember Perales, this is Rosalind Huey. I just certainly understand your concern, and just wanted to add a little bit on to what Jared had previously shared. Just a reminder that, the City Council did prioritize those two mobile home parks because they had a land use designation at a high density, so they were seen at risk. And just a reminder, the city does have a very good protection for all of our mobile home parks, and that is our conversion ordinance. And so for these remaining mobile home parks that have a lower density land use designation, they would have to come into the city and abide by that conversion ordinance, because they don't have a high enough density land use designation to do any major redevelopment. And that was part of the reason why staff did indicate back in 2020 that since we had dealt with the two most at risk, that we had considered that City Council priority completed. So just wanted to add that context as well.
Yeah, thank you. And there's obviously a lot that has gone on between then and now, and a lot obviously that we discuss and vote on. So I appreciate the historical context on that. I still think it's important work to be concluded. And honestly, I guess, up until today's discussion, wasn't aware that it just really required the council to make a budgetary decision that says, hey, let's fund this work if we want it done. And it sounds like that's the big hurdle here. So I think we can make that decision in the coming weeks.
I appreciate the discussion around the mobile home parks and the comments, Rosalind, around the conversion ordinance, but it's really the mobile home park occupants who will give them peace of mind when we do this zoning change. And I think this is what it's primarily about, because they're concerned that things can change around them without them having much influence. So I too wasn't aware that this was a budgetary issue, and that's why we hadn't gone forward. So I need to think about how I might want to position that as well. Councilmember Mahan.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask maybe a couple of questions about how we're interpreting the goal and how we are interpreting our progress toward the goal. So as I understood it, 5 years ago now, reading about the mayor's 25,000 unit goal in the paper, and what I even read in the memo today indicates that the goal was to deliver 25,000 units, which to me, and I think to the public, meant actually build. And what I see here, if I'm correct, is that over that time frame, we actually delivered or completed about 5,000 units, or about 20% of the goal, which to me is, as we all know, is why we're in a crisis, is, big alarm bells going off. And so I'm curious if I've missed something, or if that's correct. What is our definition of delivering these units? And the reason I raise this, let me just add a little more context, is that much of the tone that I've seen in reports over the last year and a half about this goal and our housing crisis work plan has been, well, we're on track with market rate. And so, we seem to really focus on affordable, and I'm all for focusing on affordable. We know there are some real funding limitations there and other challenges, but I'm not sure we should be interpreting that any of this is going particularly well, frankly. And so I just want to make sure we're on the we're kind of level setting properly. So I'll pause there. I may have some follow-up questions, but seems to me that from what we were hoping to do 5 years ago, we're actually pretty far off.
Yeah, thanks, council member. Just so on the first part, the way that it was put in the housing crisis work plan is units that have received planning approval, so entitlement units under construction, which is building permit received or completed. So the unit number was always counted in that way. I understand what your question is, and I think that's why, you know, our reference is, you know, why we need to continue to do work on, you know, and continue the work that we've done in the work plan going into 2023. I would also just say, you know, the work plan itself has always been, you know, centered or focused on policies to encourage production, you know, with the understanding that it's, you know, the market that really delivers housing. And so our, you know, while we definitely can have an impact, it's still, you know, there are a lot of other factors outside of our control. And so just keeping that in mind as well in terms of our ability to deliver or not deliver. So and it looks like Nancy might have something to add there as well. So I'll let her go.
I just wanted, thank you very much. Just wanted to take the opportunity to, I guess, state the obvious. We have done as much as we have control over. And the challenge is, much as Rachel shared with the locking finance for those affordable projects, the market rate projects, because of three issues primarily: financing, the costs, and then the rents. Certainly through the pandemic, as Jared mentioned, even though we've all heard stories about rents being high, they're still not quite caught up to 2020, but the costs for construction are very high. And as you know, recently, unfortunately, interest rates are starting to creep up. So the things that we have tools to address, we have done a good job on getting through. When you, council member, really are aware there's some challenges to getting things done on time. Other goals, we would have to explore and see if at all we could impact those. Financing would be extremely difficult for us to incent.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the significant challenges here, and I don't want to be clear. I'm not saying I'm not trying to wallow in failure. I want us to just be accurately assessing what has happened, what we've learned, where we are, and as we head into this conversation in the fall, where we evaluate, where we look back on the 5 years and we say, okay, what worked, what didn't. I just want to make sure we are really thoroughly and honestly analyzing this. And I'm not saying that anyone here has done anything wrong. It's a really challenging environment. And as you say, we don't have total control over the outcome. I think that certainly needs to be stated. At the same time, I'm not sure everyone would agree we've done absolutely everything within our power to facilitate housing construction in San Jose. I think there's kind of a range of potential levers, and you know, some of us want to pull some of those levers and not others. And I don't like every possible solution, and I don't think any of us, you know, would want to do everything, every possible thing we could do, because we'd have to. The trade-offs might be too great. But there are always options, and I think if we had a panel of home builders here on the call today and we asked them, has San Jose done absolutely everything it possibly could have in the last 5 years to enable home building in San Jose? I doubt they would all say, yes, we've done absolutely everything we could. So I think it's just an important conversation. We had hoped, you know, I think that at least the public, just to be clear, I think the public understanding was we're trying to do 25,000 units over 5 years or 5,000 new units a year. Looks like we delivered about 1,000. Now, we know there are challenges. I'm not bringing that up to try to, again, dwell on negativity. It's more about what are we hearing from the market, that what other levers. I mean, I guess what I'm reflecting on out loud here is I hope that when we have this conversation in the fall, we talk very bluntly about the challenges and lay out whatever menu of options there might be to be even more aggressive about incentivizing the building that we want in San Jose, where we want it, I think particularly within urban villages, and just, you know, be willing to have that conversation, because I worry that the implication is, well, we met the market rate goal, which implies that we're doing great. And I don't think any of us would say that we think we're doing great on meeting our housing needs. And so I wanted to flag that, because I don't think that is a correct framing of this. I just want to make sure we're going to have a really productive conversation in the fall. Jared, sorry, did you want to jump back in?
Yeah, sorry, I just had two things. I understand definitely where you're coming from. I think two things to add. You know, the cost of development report, you know, which we've done 2 other iterations. We have it coming back in August to the council. You know, it's number 1 on the work plan. I think is a very important tool to be able to give, you know, staff and the council the ability to kind of understand all the factors that are influencing development and make choices, you know, based on that report. And then second, just in terms of the metric and the goal, I think, you know, moving to the RENA numbers rather than kind of the 25,000 unit was, you know, intentional, because I think we feel like that's really a better metric to go off of, and what we should be, I mean, that's what we're saying we're going to build in the next cycle. That's the number that we should be using, and it's, you know, a little bit more of a solid number rather than kind of in the three camps. So
got it. Yeah, that it makes sense to align around what we're already agreeing to or getting from the state. On that point, isn't our next RENA cycle something over 60,000 units? Is that correct?
62,000.
Yeah, that's kind of a big number, guys. So at this rate, we'll need 60 years. Is that all? Clearly, we're going to have to find some new levers to pull to make this happen. Hopefully, with unblocking North San Jose being high on the list. But okay, well, again, I appreciate, I know you all have been working incredibly hard in the trenches for a very long time. I'm not, again, I don't bring up or point to this to be negative. I want to make sure we are analyzing this and that we on the council are really getting the good, the bad, the ugly of this, and understand what, if any, options we have to be even more aggressive. And I want to make sure in the spirit of candor that we're doing that when we look at these numbers, particularly in the fall. I think that's going to be an important moment of reflection as we kind of think about the next phase of our work here. I don't believe there's been a motion yet, has there?
No. Would you
Okay,
care to
great.
make one?
Yeah, I'd like to move acceptance of the report.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councilmember Mahan?
No, Chair, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, then I have a couple of comments. I appreciate the numbers on the 25,000, but I think we're missing a big number, and that is, or we're missing including it in affordable housing. And I just want to call attention to the number of ADUs that we have being built. They are affordable by design. I know we don't consider them affordable housing in our affordable housing numbers, but I truly believe we should. And I know they are not deed restricted, and I know that's how we look at the affordable housing units, but they are affordable in the nature of their size and their construction costs. So I would encourage us to look at that, the ADU numbers with and be pleased where our ADU numbers are, and adding in a new ADU ally next year through the budget, if that gets passed, will also help increase our ADU numbers. Doesn't mean we're meeting our affordable housing goals of 10,000, but it certainly adds to the number of housing stock in the affordable housing realm. So I never want to lose focus on the ADUs, because they're a really important count in housing, because while big projects, big developments take a long time to go up, an ADU does not. And ADUs can be built in a backyard very, very quickly if we have the permitting and staff available. Rachel, I had a couple questions for you. Something you said concerned me a great deal regarding the financing component and SIDLAC. Can you tell me, you said 2 of 4 projects have been approved by them, but 2 of them you feel will be truly funded and go to completion. Can you tell me which 2 those are and which 2 are falling off?
Yes. So the The two that are moving forward are the Kelsey, which is let's see, that one's in, there's a lot of District 3 actually.
North First Street, right?
Yes.
Northern Village.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the Kelsey is, I mean, we're, it's a closing. Every closing, has its moments, but anyway, we anticipate it will close.
Okay.
And
by close, you mean funded?
Yeah, I mean, but I'm actually saying the whole, we'll actually have a loan closing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So all the pieces of financing will come in together.
Right.
And it will close.
Right.
Okay. So that's what I mean. Okay,
no, I just want to be in the same.
Yes.
That's what I understand closing to
Yes.
be, but I just want to be on the same page with you that that's closing, because then there's the construction. They get the finance, right? So that's just closing. Now we can move forward.
Now we can move
okay.
forward. Right. Now we can pull our building permits. So,
okay. And the other one, please tell me one of them is in District 9, or please don't tell me that the two falling off are in District 9.
They're not in District 9. So, okay, the other one moving forward is Roosevelt, which is over on East Santa Clara. So that one is expected to close. And then the two that we are concerned about are El Garve, which is also on East Santa Clara, a little closer here to City Hall than Roosevelt is. And that one, what happened is the investor for the tax credits pulled out recently. And so we're trying to find a new investor, but that is, that's something we're doing right now. And we're hoping that that will happen, but that is the concern. And then the other one is McAvoy, which is in the Deardan station area. And that one really, again, and there's, I would just say that these things don't just happen, right? But really it is the fact that the costs are increasing, and then these gaps that are getting created are just more and more difficult to fill with our financing. And so that's really the biggest challenge that's facing McAvoy right now, is just that the cost have really increased, and it's been challenging to find ways to solve for those new gaps. So those are the two that we're concerned about.
Okay, so for the gaps in part is being caused by increase in interest rates, in some cases investors pulling out, which may also be a function of interest rates.
Right. It's kind of an environment, right? It's an environment where things are just not operating in kind of a predictable way.
And then the penalty is huge. So once CIDLAC approves financing, how much time does a developer have to close the transaction?
They have 120 days. And so that's the challenge, is that during that time, these things have, these issues, actually, though, if you think about the last 120 days, that's when we've really seen some changes in this environment. And so that's the challenge, because they just have 120 days. So again, that's why CIDLAC is having an emergency meeting on Wednesday. They're going to be considering these issues, and we're just really hoping that they may be sympathetic to our situation, where even like an additional 90 days could make a big difference for some of these deals.
Is there something we as council members could do to write letters to CIDLAC, encouraging them to offer an extension, modify their terms? Would that be helpful?
That would definitely be helpful. We have typically been working with the mayor's office, and the mayor's been really instrumental in helping us with this type of thing. So we will continue to do that and coordinate this week to see if there's something that we can do there. And we would really appreciate your support as well.
If you had some talking points or a template or something that we could use, make it easy on the council members, then we could send something out under our names to CIDLAC and who we send it to, because this is really critical. That's the finance piece that's missing in completing these affordable housing projects. I know in in my district, where we haven't had a lot of affordable housing, I have just under 1,000 units that are in various stages. One of them's almost ready to be for groundbreaking, but they're all in risk of financing too because of rates right now and the financing terms. So we don't want to lose those because some of them are in great locations, and we know we need affordable housing, and you obviously can't count them in either the RENA goals or the goals that was set 5 years ago, because they're not close. They haven't met the target of our qualifications. Well, anything we can do, please let us know, and if you'd be so kind to send us information that we could then use and send out, that would be really helpful.
Thank you. We really appreciate your support.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple things based on the comments. So first, the Algarve, well, happy to hear the other projects in District 3 moving forward. Algarve, though, I know one of the concerns was that they were, obviously preparing to move forward, and they did remove 2 businesses or displace 2 businesses that were there, and how they've kind of been, the property's been sitting vacant for a while. And so hearing that it's, I think almost 2 years, so hearing that it's potentially going to be delayed further is a bit concerning. So I'm hoping that can be resolved. Is there any light at the end of that tunnel there, Rachel, or hope that that sort of moves forward?
Our hope would be an extension of time specifically for Algarve. We think that would be really beneficial.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely, like I said, concerning. And again, the big thing, I mean, we want to be able to move as fast as possible on these, but then when we don't, right, there's all sorts of other challenges, not just the fact that we're not getting affordable housing, but again, in this case, a neighborhood that already is struggling with blight and homelessness and crime and whatnot. And then you have a vacant building for 2 years that was sitting there waiting, or a couple buildings, actually, a couple businesses that they were waiting for a new development to come in. Just brings about other additional challenges. So, and then I think, just speaks to as well some of the work that I've been doing over the years to try and ensure that we can spread the love around the city with what we've continually seen, just a focus within particular parts of our community. And so hopefully we'll start to see that as well with some of our signing policy work and the way that we are now ourselves incentivizing and funding some projects. And I appreciate that our chair, Councilmember Foley, is expressing right publicly an eagerness to be part of that, right, to be part of that success and have that affordable housing, right, be developed out in D9 and throughout other parts of the city. Lastly, this was I just kind of thinking about it after Councilor Mahan's comments. I think that because we as a city take rightfully so, but I think take a lot of responsibility in regards to this crisis as we have deemed it, and as we are set out to try and see how we resolve it. There becomes a belief from people in our community that we actually can solve it, right? And I think that as we know, and as we've talked about even here, just the intricacies of one individual project and how we have no control over this particular mechanism of once we've done our job, we've gotten out of the way. For instance, this Algarve project, right? I've got the community on board. We've gone through a process. We've, sort of getting to a point where then, this financing or funding or obviously the interest rates, right? That none of us could have predicted and controlled that. And all of a sudden we end up not, getting a project like this or not getting closer to our goals. And yet I don't know if was anything, different that we could do, say, in a situation like that, right? And that's where I think that there may be a misconception that we actually can solve this, right? They're like, yeah, sure, we're going to hit the 62,000, RENA goals that we have somehow leading on our own, and that's going to be the case. And I know that that we're doing a lot of work in that, and clearly we've set up this priority, right, on this housing crisis work plan. I'm curious from staff's perspective, is there something that, feedback you want to give us on, hey, maybe we shouldn't be focused on this kind of work, or, or actually we think that there's a tool out there that we haven't used, or is there a reality of, hey, look, we are, truly trying to turn over every stone, and right. And at the moment, certain things that are just outside of our capacity are in the way. And I know that this is just the status report. So we're not going to solve we're not going to solve the affordable housing crisis in this conversation. But I am curious, as we are accepting this status update, any feedback from staff that would be beneficial to us, so that way we can continue to sort of grow together and maybe move in the right direction.
Yeah, thanks, council member. That's a good question. I think first, again, just to mention the cost of development report, in August, I think that will be a useful item and consideration for staff and council, just to kind of look, holistically at market rate development and now the financing all stacks together currently. And then I think that there are a number of strategies that we're contemplating in our housing element that could have a somewhat significant impact. We're not quite ready to share those with you yet, but we're working on them right now. And they would be a part of that housing element draft and part of the future housing crisis work plan that's going to become the housing catalyst team work plan that we think could have a more significant impact. And so I think those are two things that I would say. I don't know if Michael or Rachel has anything to add.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry, I do recognize I'm jumping the gun a little bit, right? I know this work is coming. Right. It's just curious on some of that feedback. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
Oh yeah, so it is really frustrating. It's frustrating for us too. This is our job, right? We really want to solve this because we're losing staff to cheaper housing areas, just more very pragmatically. And I think it's very challenging. I mean, I think the opportunity housing analysis we did, as controversial as that was, very much mirrored the Turner Center analysis of SB9, which is we're really not going to see much of that type of housing built, as controversial as it is. And as I'm sure many people don't want it to be built, but the reality is you probably won't see much of it built. What was really interesting, though, is about the analysis of strategic economics and opportunity housing is it tested a typology of the smaller apartment building, the kind of building that was built here in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, the 6-plex and 8-plexes that started to get into an area of financial feasibility and also to some extent being more naturally affordable. And that's a housing product that we really don't allow right now in San Jose. I mean, we allow single family homes and we allow medium and high density development. There's not a lot in between. ADUs are sort of the exception. I agree with the council member fully on that. That's really, they're much easier. It puts the, housing construction in the hands of a homeowner and a small developer. But kind of looking at something that might work in that realm more. And I think that's just something to think about as we go forward. Is there an opportunity for smaller apartment buildings? Maybe not in urban villages, but in other areas of the city or in that transition between single family and urban villages. So it's something that's been on my mind. I don't think it's going to be, it's going to result in millions of units, frankly, but it is another tool in the toolbox that might be worth investigating at some point.
Well, we only need 62,000, right? So we don't need millions.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I think we need. I don't think it's going to get us like in the next 8 years. We wouldn't be getting at 5,000 units, but I mean, I think we need as many tools as we can. And ADUs is like the little tiny horse that's out in front. That's doing great. And we need more things like that we can point to, because the type of housing products that our general plan embraces are very complicated, very expensive, and very difficult to finance. And they're very much impacted by costs of development. So just thinking about, like, is there something in that more middle range that we could sort of explore to move forward?
Yeah, no, that is helpful. I am seeing, at least in my cursory knowledge of SB9 and SB10 in combination, which I know is sort of we're delayed on implementation of that, but that you could start building something like what you're talking about, right? 8 units or something like that, using some of those tools. So they may actually, today, I agree based on what we've seen from analysis of SB9, it's not likely to develop much, right, or have many conversions. But along the lines of what you're talking about, once you start going up a little bit more, maybe 8, units or 10 or something like that, then maybe we tap into this particular middle section that we're not really allowing today, and maybe it does, help make a small dent the same way the ADUs are. Because I would agree. I mean, you have a good analogy there. It's the small horse there, but it's kicking butt, right? And we need more projects that are out there, or more type of developments, I should say, that are out there that are doing the same. And the last bit, which obviously it's a unique challenge that we have here in San Jose, is that where we want to develop high rise in our downtown, we have the high water table and the low ceiling because of planes. So, that's also another challenge. I mean, we would have had 40, 50-story buildings already if that weren't the case. And that would make the high rises much more feasible, right? And able to be financed and to be built. So, I think we need to understand our challenges, as you point out, and then understand where the opportunities are to plug in and get some type of housing at a much faster rate. I look forward to the conversations that I know we'll have in a couple months here. But I do appreciate your thoughts, your thoughts on that. You guys are in the middle of this work, and you're aware of likely a lot more than we are of what's working, what's not, what's missing. And so I look forward to that report coming back to the West. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. You had your hand raised. Did you want to respond?
Just
Add
two quick
anything?
things. Michael,
Okay.
I so appreciate what you were saying, and maybe there's opportunities with heights to find in other areas like the West Side that could accommodate more height, and finding sites that would be not as strongly objected to as we have seen some, because then you can get more yield. But then also one for Rachel, if the council were willing, Rachel knows super well that dense housing, for affordable or otherwise, is penalized at the state housing funds level because it costs more per unit. So it would be very useful to have prioritization based on putting housing where it's supposed to go, and in densities where it's supposed to go, which isn't the case at the moment.
Thank you, Nancy. With that, let's vote.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Mahan,
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our third item, which is the Development Services Process Improvements and Dashboard Report. Chris Burton, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Committee. We're back and glad to be back with you to talk about our development services process improvements and walk you through the dashboard as it stands. Joining me in the presentation today will be Robert Manfred and Lisa Joyner, our 2 deputy directors for planning and building. We also have a host of other staff on the call so we can answer any in-depth questions you have as we go through some of the numbers. So next slide, please. So just to remind you of this real eye test that we presented last time, this shocking slide of all these numbers, we continue to really drive towards a data-informed management style throughout PBCE, so we can start to really understand much more in-depth perspective of the mechanics of how we're delivering service to all of our customers. So we're tracking numbers on a wide spectrum right across the board. Generally speaking, we're continuing to see construction activity increase as we move out of the pandemic. We're starting to see that, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically on some of the numbers and kind of where we're seeing that and how we're being impacted. But today, we're really going to focus on 3 areas, just to kind of give you a sense of kind of what's going on. The first is going to be planning intake and sort of what's going on from the planning process and how we're moving projects into the process. Then we're going to talk a little bit more about building plan review, what's going on sort of how we review the permits that are coming in for a building permit. And then lastly, talk about where we're at with inspection, which is really the key indicator on actual construction activity on the ground, and what we're seeing from that perspective. Then what we're going to do is we're going to finish up by talking about a little bit about our staffing. You heard from Michael kind of where we're at in our citywide team. We want to talk about where we're at within PBC on the development services side, just to give you that perspective. And in addition, we'll be talking a little bit about some updates that are coming from a building perspective and what difference that's going to make to our work. So let's dive in. I'm going to hand it over to Robert to talk through the planning perspective.
Good afternoon, committee members. Robert Manfred, Deputy Director for Planning. Two areas that we'll focus on this afternoon have to do with our planning permit center intake functions, which are applications waiting to be processed, and then secondly, email inquiries received each month. It's important to know that our planning permit center generally works on ministerial projects, which are projects that otherwise would not be coming to you at City Council or going to Planning Commission or even to Director's hearing. The permit center, as you can see, has 1 supervisor, 7 planners, and then 2 planning technicians. As of the end of April, we had an application backlog of 79, and actually, this is a new law since we started measuring this backlog 10 months ago. This also represents a 53% decline over the past 6 months. These applications, which are historically submitted in person in the permit center, actually transitioned to an email inbox. We had a renewed focus on intake backlog for customers, for the planners who are cost recovery, who must actually work on the application process. Conversely, we've also had a decrease for email inquiries, which we received about 822 by the end of March. The general email inquiries are managed by the planning technicians in the permit center. While the decline may look positive, it's likely an outcome of both planning technician positions being vacant from February to April. Since our response time was slowed due to these vacancies, we saw an overall decrease in email traffic since there were less back and forth to our initial replies for questions. I'm glad to report that both planning technician vacancies have now been actually filled. And so going forward, we anticipate seeing more efficiency and an increase in the performance that we've provided today. So hand over to Lisa for the next slide.
Thank you, Robert. Good afternoon, Chair Foley and council members. Lisa Joyner, Deputy Director for the Building Division. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about our building plan review team. It's no secret that we have a backlog in our regular plan review process. Due to retirements and staff departures, we have an over 30% vacancy rate with our associate engineers. The format of regular plan review is not conducive to providing a quick feedback loop for customers and often results in additional rounds of comments. Each round can require action from multiple staff within the division. In an effort to help our customers, to reduce pressure on the plan review team and to streamline the review process, we are working to add more permit options into the online permitting system, shifting appropriate applications to our over-the-counter inspection review team, and exploring the expansion and return of our express review operations on the first floor in the permit center. While re-implementing Express will require resource shifting from the over-the-counter and plan review teams, the overall increase in review time efficiency should offset any deficit created by the movement. We also have an active associate engineer recruitment underway, and we're hopeful we'll be able to start reducing our vacancy numbers. In addition to this, we have an RFP out to obtain more peak staffing agencies that we can contract with. Next slide, please. So our inspection team, for the past 2 years, first COVID and then supply chain issues slowed construction and therefore the demand for inspections. As a result, on the chart 18, you can see our nearly perfect 100% of inspections available within 48 hours. At the same time, we also assigned more inspectors to the over-the-counter plan review team to assist getting permits into the field and under construction, and launched a virtual inspection team. Inspection demands are cyclical, typically increasing in the summer and decreasing in the winter. The demand increase for 2022 started a bit earlier than we're used to, as you can see by the dips in the available inspection chart. With a 20% vacancy rate in the inspection team, our resources are limited. In March of this year, we began providing Saturday inspections to keep the available scheduling window from increasing out of control. I'd also like to note that while Saturday inspections are overtime for our staff, there is currently no increase in fee for the customer. We have both the combination inspection recruitment and the inspection supervisor recruitment active and are working to reduce the vacancy rate within our inspection team. Next slide, please. So our building codes. It's important to remember that the California building codes update on a 3-year cycle, and we are in a code change year. The 2022 California building codes go into effect on January 1st, 2023, and must be adopted before that date. We typically see a big rush of applicants wanting to submit their building permit applications prior to the code change, and those applications need to be in our hands prior to January 1st. The December holiday closure makes it a bit challenging to achieve this, but we make every accommodation possible to help those with completed permit applications get in before the deadline. It does, however, create an increased demand for intake and plan review services at the end of the year, at the beginning of next year. And I will give it back to Chris.
Thanks, Lisa. So just to close out, I just want to talk a little bit more about kind of where we stand with our current staffing by comparison to the last time we reported. So you may recall we showed you a similar slide back in February. We have absolutely made hiring a priority within the department. It's been a priority on an ongoing basis, but certainly doing everything we can to reduce any barriers that we find in our workflows or within the department to actually getting people in positions. As a result, we have made some gains. Certainly in planning, our permit center has filled all of the vacancies there. And our development review team has also reduced the vacancy rate significantly. As you heard from Michael earlier, we are still experiencing vacancy across the board. And I think the important statistic to bear in mind is that although we're sort of keeping that vacancy rate low, we are seeing a lot of turnover. And so where we're losing people, we're losing institutional knowledge and memory. And so thinking through strategies and plans on how we offset that in our onboarding process and our ongoing training and development is going to be critical to our long-term success. And then throughout building, while we've made some gains in the permit center with some additions, and what this chart doesn't reflect is through that period, we also had a considerable number of retirements, so just nature of the timing of the year. So while it looks like we may have only added 1 or 2 positions here or there, the turnover again has been probably slightly more significant. But as you can see, and as Lisa was mentioning, we have significant challenges in plan review. And as we move towards the end of the year and that code cycle, that's something that we're super cognizant of and keeping a very close eye on. Like Lisa said, we're sort of actively working those recruitments to help fill those positions. And then in addition, an inspection. And so finding qualified candidates that are a good fit for our inspection process, continues to be challenging. And so it's something that we're working on, thinking through our process and then thinking through our ability to onboard once we have folks in that pipeline. And that's all we have for today from the numbers perspective. As I said, we have a whole host of folks with us who can help answer any questions you have on the specifics.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'll turn to members of the public first. Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for this item. Urban villages is what I was trying to mention in the previous item that I think can relate to this item in a way, in that, the future of urban village planning and its needs for it to be a more efficient process in its permitting. I question that and I worry about that, and I'm not totally in favor of it. And I hope that can be very closely monitored. I don't think we should go headlong into the wonders of streamlining urban planning permitting in the future, basically. I think we have to be very cautious in how we proceed. That should just be a standard good practices, I think. The other item I wanted to mention is how, say, the CEQA process can be a part of this future development package and thinking. And we're making streamlining ideas with CEQA right now. A reminder that, when you first approve of a project with CEQA, it's important to have a review process after, say, 6 months or a year, and really check up on, what are the environmental impacts that are happening from the initial approval process, and really take note of it, learn important lessons, and develop better environmental strategies for the future. That's the goal, I think, of this streamlining process, is to really learn from our mistakes and really find ways to make important environmental concerns relevant in the future development of permitting and the CEQA process. And if you can do those two things, that's growing, that's growth, and that's good practices. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Turning to the committee, does anyone have any questions or wish to make a motion to accept the report?
I'll move to accept the report.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales, is there a second?
Second. Chair, I also have my hand up just for a quick comment, if that's okay.
Yes, by all means. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. And Chris and team, I just want to thank you for the dashboards. I know that's cliche coming from me, but I do think, having a sense of how we're tracking is really helpful. It is a lot to consume. And so I'll probably take some time to go through the charts offline and just circle back to you after the meeting with a few questions. But I appreciate that we are sort of isolating our performance and some of the key drivers like vacancy, tracking progress over time, and then explicitly tying your update here to what you're doing to make sure that we have measurable improvement. So I just want to say thank you. I know we're continuing to flex this muscle and get better and better at it, and it's just a constant learning experience. But I'm grateful for all the effort the department is making to go in this kind of more data-driven direction. Certainly helpful from my perspective as somebody who's trying to support your work and provide some basic feedback. And so anyway, just thank you for the report, and look forward to follow-up conversations offline.
Thank you. Also, I'd like to thank you for the report as well, and the detailed analysis of where you are and where you're going, particularly as it relates to the vacancies. I know that's really impacting your work, and we as council members hear from our residents all the time about construction projects and how they're being delayed, or why are they being delayed, what's the cause. So having this analysis of this information really arms us with the information we need to go back to our community and manage expectations a little bit with them. So thank you for the report. I see no other hands raised, so let's vote.
Carrasco?
Aye.
Perales?
Yes.
Mahan?
Aye.
Foley?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the last report is on COVID-related impacts to employees at the airport. This is an update, and I understand that John, are you with us, or who's giving us it? Yes, there he is. Okay, very good. Thank you for coming back, John.
No problem. John Aiken, Director of Aviation. Today, we're bringing you back the COVID issues with employees at the airport. We did a presentation on January 24th. The committee asked us to conduct a little extra outreach with the employees in the union, and we're here to report back what we found when we talked to them. So we had meetings with the union. We met with 3 representatives of Unite here. They represent the employees from HMS Host, which is one of the food and beverage concessionaires, and Hudson, which is the retail concessionaire. We also met with the employees. We had 4 open forum meetings to talk with them directly. They were scheduled at various times over 2 days because these people work shift work, so we made it so that they could come to the meetings. They were also offered in hybrid so that they could Zoom from home or whatever, so that they could get in and talk with us. We put the meeting information out to the union, to the tenant managers, put signs in the terminals to say, these are the dates, these are the times, come talk to the airport staff about this. And we're continuing this opportunity for them to continue to talk with us through the different times. The meetings with the unions, I just wanted to go through their concerns and whether or not we had a response for them right away. Their concerns were the pandemic's been hard on their workers. They want to see a recovery. Focuses on sensible wages and good health care and pension. We didn't have any response to any of those. That's normal union work. Want regular meetings with airport staff. So we agreed to quarterly meetings between the union and the airport staff to talk about issues before they become larger issues. They had questions about when the new concessions will be opening. We told them that we'll keep them informed about the schedule. COVID has delayed a lot of construction out at the airport. But even more important than that, we can't even fully staff the concessions we have that are open. And so it's really an employee shortage issue that's holding us back right now. They'd like to see the customer service training increase, and that had been canceled during the pandemic. So staff is looking at reinstating the customer service training. The unions were concerned for safety of their workers. And you can see a couple things there. Obviously, passengers don't have to wear the masks anymore. And therefore, the concessionaire staff don't have to police the mask wearing. They had questions about city living wage versus airport living wage versus their union contracts. We tried to explain the differences between all three. They acknowledged the worker shortage, the union did, and said they'd like to help find additional workers. We were very happy to hear that. We do some job fairs, so the union is going to try and work with us on rallying the troops, during these job fairs so we can get more employees out here. When it came to the employees meetings, these are kind of in priority order as far as number of times it was mentioned. Homeless individuals at the airport, creating a security and safety issues. We've talked to them about that. We have more monitoring of the situation. The employees that park in the Terminal A garage, all of them can park there. There's an enclosed walkway into the building. So even if you're in Terminal B, you can go through the checkpoint at A and be inside the building walking to your concession. So you're not out on the sidewalk, walking along the sidewalk where there might be the homeless, trying to give them a safer route in. They had concerns about road safety crossing the streets at the airport. We have several crosswalk improvements going on right now. And again, we talked to them about the sky bridge at Terminal A from the parking garage up and over the road into the Terminal A. They talked a little bit about having to assist customers with directions and stuff. My opinion, that's kind of part of their job. So in that customer service training that we're going to reignite, they'll be talking about how to engage with the customer on common questions like where's gate 23? And I think all employees out here, concession or our employees, should be in the mindset to help the customer when they ask. Some more employee meeting questions. Getting to work. The buses have multiple stops. We explained the bus route to them. They were getting on the wrong buses. So it was a bus that would go out to the long-term lot and then come around to the terminals. So we explained that to them. The TSA lines can be really long, when they show up for work. And this has been going on for years. All employees with an employee badge can go up the first class lane and skip all the way to the front to get to the TDC to go through the checkpoint without waiting. The staff, the concession staff, didn't realize that. So we reiterated that to them and to the union to make sure they understand they don't have to wait in line for 20 minutes to get through the checkpoint to get to work. The employees also asked the question on airport living wage, city living wage, and what I make from my union contract. And so the team tried to explain the differences again to them. They had questions about the COVID sick pay, the second round of COVID sick pay. And the law was actually passed after the meetings, but retroactive, and we had told them to stay in contact with the union, that they would be able to tell them how to work the COVID sick leave if they got COVID during that period. Then they had a question on employee parking and why do some companies subsidize it and some don't. And we said this is a company-specific decision. It might be a great union negotiating point, you know, so maybe talk to your, if that's an issue, you know, talk to your union about it when they're negotiating the next contract. Great opportunity to, you know, throw that into the mix. And then finally, we left the door open. Unite here and the staff will have the quarterly meetings. Employees know how to get a hold of Magdalena. We left the signs up with Magdalena's information in the employee elevators, in the back halls by the offices, so that they can go, oh yeah, I wanted to talk to her. There's her email or there's her phone number, so that we continue to bring in the employee concerns before they become more of an issue. So you know, we kind of kept our communication open with them. And that's the end of our feedback from the meeting. So we're happy to take questions and go from there.
John, this is really a great report. It seems like you resolved a lot of issues that were just things festering with the employees, that they didn't understand how they could go through the speed line at TSA and parking in other areas. It sounds like you really had some good and productive meetings there. Okay, I will turn to members of the public. I see no hands raised, so I'm going to go to the committee.
Chair, looks like Blair raised his hands right after you said that.
Okay. Blair?
Thank you for seeing my hand. Cindy Chavez works really quickly like that, and she doesn't allow that usually. Thank you that you saw it and were able to correct it. Thank you. Yeah, for this item, boy, I am going to go out on a bit of a limb here, and so I just to prepare yourselves, and thank you for your patience. You know, it's my feeling that the San Jose airport, they're kind of in a unique place where they kind of experiment sometimes with new technology and ideas and how that can, you know, work itself out that can better take place in the future of a community. ALPR data collection.
Blair, this is about the employees and the meeting with the employees. Can you keep your comments focused on that?
I'm speaking on items, yeah, related to employee health and decency and safety. And what I'm trying to say is that, you know, there's an overall theme of the ALPR work based on the civil rights and civil protection ideas at the airport compared to the rest of the city that's been unique. It's given really important lessons that I feel are vital to morale and good spirits. And currently, you know, I feel there's issues of, you know, the feature of biometric camera use at the airport and the use of aerosol vaccines for COVID that are used more at the airport that aren't so much in regular public, that I think we can learn important lessons from. And that I think should be kind of an idea we can learn to talk about more openly, like how biometric camera use, you know, in this day and age with open public policies and accountability can be an easier subject to talk about and navigate and make clear for all of us. So good luck how we can do that. And with the aerosol vaccine process also, it's subject matter that should be talked about, and public comment time is a good place to be allowed to be able to do that, so we can feel easier to talk about these subjects in the future more clearly. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Turning to the, oh, I'm sorry, there's one more public speaker, Louise Auerhahn.
Thank you, Chair. Louise Auerhahn with Working Partnerships. And thank you for this report. I'm glad to hear that there has been some progress. There's been outreach and conversations with at least one of the unions and with workers. I know that there was some struggles to get that far, so I'm glad to see that there is dialogue and progress being made. I think there's a lot more to be done to restore worker morale and a sense of, I think, respect and ability to maintain careers at the airport. So I'd encourage you to continue doing this. I think the quarterly meetings will be a big help. Maybe quarterly reports to this committee could be useful as well. And I'd also like to point out that there is more than one union at the San Jose airport. There's Unite Here, USWW, the Teamsters, I believe a couple others. They certainly all collaborate and work together. But I think that there's a lot broader spectrum of workers and probably more to be done with those and the new workers to ensure that we really are providing decent work for our employees and the people who make our airport run. I also think there are some deeper issues. When the workers asked about the living wage, I suspect they were not looking for an explanation of why their wage is lower than people in other parts of the city, but ways that their wage could not be so low. Right now, some of them make barely above living wage, and that may well be contributing to the issues with hiring and recruitment. So thank you for the report, and hopefully this will be the start of a longer conversation and more progress.
Thank you. Moving to the committee, I don't see any hands raised. Is there a motion to accept the report?
So moved.
I'll move to accept the, oh, I'll second, and thank you for the reporting.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Let's vote.
Carrasco?
Aye.
Perales?
Yes.
Mahan?
Aye.
Foley?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So concludes our meeting, and now we turn to members of the public for open forum. If there are any hands raised, then please, this is open forum to address any items that we have not discussed in the committee meeting already. Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks. I've kind of made it regular that I think, in the past few months that all sides, I think, can really work towards negotiation and peace in the future of the Ukraine area. And what's interesting in saying these words, for such an international issue, is that it can be brought down to the level of the work we do at the local level at this time of reimagine, health and human services, openness and accountability practices, I think can be really important examples that, the future of the community is just vital to the future of Ukraine. All sides can agree to that, I think. Why not we start working on those concepts now that we can use our good local examples here that can really be of help and service to how they're going to have to rebuild Ukraine eventually. And just good luck in those good efforts. And to also speak to the efforts of just overall building good international relations, we're trying to work with Cuba at this time and understand how we can work with Cuba again and make relationships normal and normalized and just our regular day-to-day international practices and not treat Cuba as the boogeyman. And I think we really have to work on that concept. And we're at a time to do that. And it's normalizing things that we make so superstitious and fearful that 9 times out of 10 can simply be talked to rationally and with good reasoning, and good relations can develop from there. And that's important that we do that in this country at this time. I think that's an important goal for the summer. And overall good practices for this summer of better communication that we can do at the local level, I think will produce some really interesting things by this fall. So good luck to ourselves in San Jose. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no other hands raised. With that, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you. See you next month.